Well, we are in the studio with Bob DeArmond. He's the Executive Director of the Arrowhead Regional Arts Council. Tell me what's been happening with the Arts Council.
Well, one of the biggest things I wanted to talk a little bit about with you is that we're going to go to online applications. This is scaring some of my constituents because they don't have real good access to computers, so we're going to do everything to make it possible. But it'll be really an exciting thing, I think, for the region because we are so large. Being able to apply online and have it be that immediate and have us be able to respond immediately to whether they're missing something or they need something is going to be really good.
The technicalities of rolling out an online system are pretty darn tricky.
They are, yeah. We've been working on it for about 6 or 7 months. And we'll be starting at beginning our next fiscal year, which means the first deadline at the end of July will be the first one that people have to think about it.
Tell me a little bit about how life has changed post Heritage Amendment.
Sure. It was passed in 2008, and we started getting money from it in 2010, and it more than doubled the amount of money we were able to get out in grants. It actually requires us to do things in education, which in the past we weren't required to do because they said, oh, schools do that, we don't want you to do that. And it allows us to do community education, which is a new program that we have now. This year we'll give out $2.5 million in grants. So in 5 years we're running about a $500,000 a year, which is about a 66% increase over what we were able to do prior to the amendment. So it's been really good that way.
How do you measure the impact?
We're doing a lot of things to try to measure the impact. The other thing that the amendment does is it's much more, there's much more where we have to ask for what they're going to do, how they're going to evaluate it, and how they know they got the results they asked for. So there's a lot more of not only quantitative kind of recording, there's qualitative recording. And this is really because what we're trying to do with the amendment, and most of people probably are aware of this, but we're hoping that in 25 years, everybody in the state of Minnesota will be impacted by art.
One of my questions is what are the biggest challenges, both for you and for the arts organizations and the artists that you're serving right now?
Biggest challenges. I can tell you what mine are, I guess. Our biggest challenge is getting out the money that we have and telling people how to access it. The expanding of the mandate is touching a lot of groups that previously would say, oh, we don't really fit. Well, now they do. Now they do some education things, or now they're doing some things dealing with ethnicity or something that now we can fund. And so we're coming up with groups now that we didn't know really existed out there. And so I think for arts groups, at least in the Duluth area, we're seeing sort of a renaissance. I mean, if you look at theater in Duluth, or if you look at music in Duluth, there's a lot going on, And I think part of what we need to deal with in my region and in Duluth as well is I have more money, I can help more people do things, but oftentimes the economies that they have to work in are not changing that much. So the disposable income for people to attend their activities is no better than it was 10 years ago.
From a application point of view, what advice would you have for an artist who's out there saying, okay, I want to really do this, but I don't know exactly?
The first thing I would always say to an applicant is look at the guidelines. Go online or contact us and we'll send you hard copies. Look at the guidelines and make sure that the program that you're looking at is actually something that will fund what you want to do. Then the next thing I would say is call the office and talk to whoever the manager of that program is and get their feedback. And the other thing is, as you get the feedback and as you write up a narrative and as you work on a budget, as long as you can get that to the manager prior to the deadline, the person will look at it.
I have to ask you, what piece of this are you most proud of? Is there something that says, this is why I do this? Yes.
Oh, for me, if I grew up as an artist. I was a working artist before I took this job. When I finally got this job, I then had a platform, I guess, for helping the board decide what kind of programs really would help artists and arts organizations throughout a whole region, which is really huge, so that it impacted the people we wanted to impact. So I'm really proud of that. The other thing I guess I'm proud that the board is doing is the Arrowhead Arts Awards. We started them basically because nobody at the time when we started it was honoring people who worked in the arts or artists in the region. The first two people we gave it to, the first one was George Morrison, the Native American artist up in Grand Portage, and Jay Anderson, both from the Grand Marais area. Jay was at that time the executive director of the Grand Marais Art Colony. I ended up asking George, who was quite a sort of a curmudgeon man, very nice, but didn't talk a lot. I remember when I asked him if he would let us name it after, he said, "Let me think about it." I said, "Okay." And I called him back the next day and he said, "Yeah." And that's all he said. And it's been named after him, and I've been very proud to be able to do that because he was really an exceptional artist. We never have trouble finding people. In any given year, there's more than enough in my region that we can keep it going for years and never run out of good people.
Well, Bob DeArmond, thank you for coming over and sharing your story.
I'm glad to do it. I appreciate it.